Hello, it's Heather Chesky, and I am so excited to be coming to you with a short and sweet video that it will give you 3 tips to price your photography for profit. So tell me, have you ever struggled knowing exactly how to price your sessions and your products? Have you ever lowered your prices thinking that that will bring in more people for you to photograph? Have you ever lacked the confidence when it comes to telling your clients your pricing? And maybe you get a little nervous or anxious, you get sick to your stomach when you think about saying your prices to your clients. Or have you ever compared yourself to the other 342 photographers down the road in your town who are charging next to nothing, and you feel like you have to compete with them on price? Or have you ever second guessed yourself and your pricing menu? Maybe you have 5, 10, maybe 15 different pricing menus and you're still not sure if what you've done already is right. If you can relate to any of this, know that you're in the right place. I'm going to be sharing with you some quick tips and strategies so that you can price your photography for profit. But before we dive into that, I want to actually tell you and be a little bit harsh, not all in good love, but basically I want to tell you that your feelings don't belong here as we're talking about pricing. I know if you're feeling like you lack confidence or that you get anxious or nervous about pricing, that's fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to put your feelings on hold for right now. We're going to put them on the shelf, not look at them right now, and we're going to look at your business and your numbers, and we're going to figure out what you need to charge to stay in business and to grow your business. So can you agree with me and put your feelings on hold so we can get this done? All right, you ready? All right, so let's dive into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is to define your financial goal. I cannot tell you how many photographers I have coached with on a daily and weekly basis, and their goal is super, super unclear. Guys, you have to have a target to hit. You have to know what you're working towards. So it's super important to define your financial goal. So here are a couple questions that you can ask yourself to help you figure out what you want to do. So first question is, how much money do you want to make, or how much money do you need to make? Do you want to replace your full-time income and become a full-time photographer? I want you guys to pick a number that you want to make every single month and every single year. And realize, guys, that you put a lot of time, energy, and effort into your business. So how much money do you actually want to get as a return from that hard work that you put in? And then also, along those same lines, how do you see yourself spending your money? It's really important to have a vision for your money. So maybe your goal is to pay off your car in a year. Maybe it's to save up for that dream vacation. Maybe you just like to go on a few more date nights with your husband and not stress about finances. So guys, how much money do you want to make in your business every single month and every single year? And what will you do with that money when you have it? So I would love to also walk you through an example as I share these texts. So let's just say in this example, you want to make $30,000 take home pay every single year in your business. That breaks out to be about $2,500 a month, which is a super realistic and totally doable goal to do this with photography. And you might be asking yourself, but Heather, what about business expenses and taxes? How do you actually factor all of that in? And guys, that is a big topic to address, and what you can do, and it will take more time, and I definitely encourage you to do this, but really to lay out how much your website costs, how much money do you want to spend in advertising, how much does your gear cost, how much does insurance cost. You can create a list of all your expenses and then get a really good idea of how much you're putting out into running your business. Now, as far as taxes, we're going to be guessing for a little bit. If you're in your first, couple months, year or two of your business, it's going to be really hard just to kind of pick a number out of thin air and go with it. So what I suggest, and this is actually what I did when I first started my business a couple of years ago, is I multiplied my goal number by 25%. And what that will do is it will give you a rough estimate of what you need to make to cover your take-home pay and to also cover your expenses and to also cover taxes, because you do not want to be waiting at the end of the year scrambling to find a few $1,000s to pay your taxes when you could have been setting it aside all year long. So back to our example, if you want to make $30,000 for the entire year in take-home pay, we're going to multiply that number by 2.5. And what we get is $75,000. 30 of that is your take-home pay, and 45,000 of that is to cover your taxes and your business expenses. Now, I realize some of you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot more money than what I was expecting. And you know what? That's okay. But remember, leave your feelings on the side and put them on the shelf. I'm going to show you how this can work out to your advantage, and we can be crystal clear on knowing how much money you need to make per client to reach that goal. And also, just so you know, I like to err on the side of caution. So chances are in your first year or two in business, you're not going to need $45,000 to cover your business expenses unless you have that chic studio downtown and you're really, have a high expense level. So I'm also budgeting on error on the side of caution, just so you have some extra wiggle room, okay? But we're gonna work with these numbers, and I'm gonna show you how it can be super simple to reach that goal. So let's move on to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to do the math. So here we ask yourself, how many sessions do you want to photograph every single year? How many weddings? How many events? How many newborns? How many seniors? Just basically, how much do you want to work this year? And I really want you guys to be super realistic with this goal. Maybe you're working another full-time job, so you can't commit to doing 5 sessions every single week. That's totally okay. Or maybe you're like me and you have kids running around the house who are super young and still need your attention, and you still can't commit to doing 20 plus sessions a month. Again, that's okay. Be super realistic about how many clients you feel like you can serve well with all the other things that you have going on in your life right now. And then also you want to factor in family vacations and holidays and any time that you want to take off during the year. And your goal here is to find that sweet spot number that you feel good about working, and then also still having a life outside your business. All right, so back to our example. Let's just say you want to photograph 1 client a week for the entire year. Now that's a total of 52 clients a year. And you also want to take 4 weeks of vacation, maybe 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks during Christmas. You want to take off and be with your family, maybe do some traveling. So what we're left with is 48 sessions for the entire year. So now what we do is we divide your big goal number by how many clients you want to work with. So in our example, it's $75,000 divided by 48 sessions, and we are left with $1,562.50. And now we know that if you want to grow $75,000, if you want to have a take-home pay of 30 grand and then also have enough to cover your business and tax expenses, you need to, and you want to photograph 48 sessions, your goal is to make $1,562.50 per client. I personally like to round up for some extra wiggle room, and let's just face it, it makes the math a lot easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and up that number to $1,600 per client. Now, you can also factor in your session fee. So let's say for example, your session fee is $300. You can subtract that from how much money you need to make per client. So in our example, if the client pays you $300 to actually have their photos done for you, after that has been paid, your goal is to then sell them on $1,300 worth of artwork and wall art and albums and folio boxes and prints and whatever else you choose to sell to your clients. And also, if you photograph weddings and portrait clients, just know that you actually have a little bit more wiggle room. You can play with your numbers a little bit more. If you, want to photograph 10, 15, 20 weddings a year, you either don't need to photograph as many portrait sessions or you don't need to make as much per portrait client. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the final tip, which is to create your pricing menu. Now, this is where you get to use your bare minimum, and in our example, it's $1,300, and from that number, you create your pricing, menu, and your collections. And I know some of you might be asking, but I have no idea what should go in my collections. I totally hear you. That's where I was when I first started my business too. I didn't know what my clients would buy. I didn't know if they prefer the wall art or the albums or the Foley box. I had no freaking clue. So what I did, and what I'd like to introduce you to, is something called the bonus structure pricing. Now, the bonus structure pricing is where you list all of your products in an a la carte fashion. And then you offer incentives for when your clients reach a certain investment level, which is your bare minimum. So basically, you're rewarding them for spending more money. So here's just an example. Is like on the page that you see, your clients can invest $950 and perhaps they receive the slideshow of all their images. Or they can invest $1,300, that's your bare minimum, and they receive all the social media files. Or maybe they invest $1,600 and they get a set of free graduation announcements or baby announcements, or maybe a complimentary print or two. Or maybe they invest $2,400 and they receive some high resolution images. You really have the freedom to play around with what you offer in your bonus structure. But what's really important here is that you can see and learn the buying behaviors of your clientele. I did this for quite a while in my business, and it gave me so much knowledge and insight in terms of what products my clients were going after and were purchasing again and again and again. And that gave me so much clarity around how I should structure my collections. So that is a great jumping off point if you just don't know what to do and don't know how to build your collection, is to start with a bonus structure. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap. 3 tips to price your photography for profit. Tip number 1 is to define your financial goal. Guys, you have to know where you're going in order to hit it. And then also, how do you see yourself spending the money once you have it? The tip number 2 is to do the math. I know we're creative individuals and math is not necessarily our forte, but just go ahead, sit down, put a timer on for 20 minutes and work through the math, because it's going to give you so much clarity around, what your goal is to make off of each client so that you hit your big goal number for the entire year. And finally, tip number 3 is to create your pricing menu based off of your bare minimum that you need to make per client. If you like the idea of the bonus structure, go ahead, take it, run with it, do it yourself. I personally loved having that. It was super easy to understand from a client's perspective, and it got me where I need to be in terms of making the money that I needed to make so that I could support my family. So there you have it. 3 tips to price your photography for profit. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you later.